And we're live. What's up, everyone? It's Talks with Ken here. Today, we'll be discussing historical patterns that I have noticed with American politics. Now, I'm going to kind of go into a rift with some news articles. First, we're going to explain populism. What is populism? Populism refers to a range of political stances that emphasize the idea of the people, often just to oppose this group against the elite, which is the establishment, right? It's frequently associated with anti-establishment. And this is going to be a frequent theme that I'll be emphasizing in this video is that, you know, how some of the cons of populism is people say, oh, it's only for the people. Whoever's not part of the group is usually ostracized from populism. But I think that's a false claim because what the populism in American politics today is associated with going against globalist ideals, right? Globalism, essentially, right? If globalists or the establishment is beholden to global powers that be, that are one world government type of thing, and populism arise amongst the population of a nation, I don't necessarily think it's a wrong thing, right? Because the populism is based on American ideals. That's why nationalism is so important to me. I think that fighting for a vision that's good for all people is a good thing, right? And this dichotomy that I'm gonna mention with populism is due with RFK, Biden, right? You already seen what's going on with Trump's indictment as well, and I'm kind of going to some of the slides that I have here, or some of the tabs I have here, is the concept of rational ignorance. Rational ignorance is reframing from acquiring knowledge when the supposed cost of educating oneself on an issue exceeds the expected potential benefit that the knowledge would provide. This is a big thing I think we deal with in politics, right? Because when voter turnout becomes more and more rampant throughout the years, it lowers essentially the quality of candidates because not a lot of the population is educated enough to really make a fully informed decision, right? And I think this is what's been going on. Like, a lot of people don't want to know what's going on, right? There's no benefit for them knowing, oh, what's going on in politics, right? It's more of a long-term play, right? And this mental model that I like to refer to is called second order thinking, right? And second order thinking is like, first level is simplistic and superficial, right? And this is how I think Democrats get a lot of high turn up rate, is because they'll say, oh, look, the Republicans are going to take away your abortion, and they use fear, because fear, like, end of the day, human psychology, it responds very immediate with negative emotion. This is why Democrats play the race narrative with black people. If they want high black turnout rates, they'll try to emphasize how Republican policies are racist or that will negatively affect them as a group, right? And this is a concept that I think should be pushed more on our as Americans. We should be thinking more in these lines. First level thinking is superficial and simplistic and superficial, and just about anyone can do it. A bad sign for anyone in an attempt at superiority. All the first level thinkers all he needs is an opinion about the future, as the outlook for a company is favorable, meaning the stock will go up. Right? This is first level thinking, and many of us we fall prey to this because it's very reactionary, right? And this is how, as a nation, you put in a lot of bad politicians doing things this way, right? This is how Biden got in my view. There was this messaging that, hey, we could all return to normal, right? Just put Biden back in. All the blue states will open up again if Biden's the president, right? There was this narrative and actually this feeling that if Trump win, it'll be Armageddon, right? The protesters will be rioting in the streets. Remember in 2020, I don't know if a lot of people remember that. In the 2020 election, a lot of people were boarding up their businesses, being prepared for a riot to happen in the United States if Trump won. Right. And this was the biggest push for why Biden won, in my view, is because people fell over in this first level thinking, hey, the country will go back to normal if we just put Biden in. Right. So second level thinking is deep and complex and convoluted. Right. And this is, I think, a good book for this concept is called Think Fast and Slow. And think fast is like essentially, hey, first order thinking is fast and easy. Think slow is more long term and deliberate. And I think the lack of concepts of second order thinking is what's killing our country and politics, right? So as you all probably know, a couple months ago, the DNC said that they will not be holding any primary debates, already essentially saying that Biden's their guy, right? And this, I think, if I was a Democratic voter, I'll be pissed about, because essentially this is establishment playing politics. And this is the dichotomy I'm going to keep bringing up. First, I'm going to bring it up with RFK before I go into the Republican side. But in the Democratic side, it's obvious Biden's supported by the establishment. And who's anti-establishment in the Democratic Party right now is the second runner, RFK. So if Robert F. Kennedy is the anti-establishment candidate, the people want a debate. There's no question about it. Look, most Democrat voters don't want Biden to seek a second term, right? This is what the people want. Now I'm starting to bring up this dichotomy between what the people want and what the establishment want. Because for too long, a lot of the establishment will try to sit here and pretend, oh, we're doing what's best for the American people. We're catering to the American people. Okay, if the American people say, hey, we don't want this guy, and they're your voters, your constituents, shouldn't the establishment listen to them? I'm just saying, right? And when these people talk about their democracy, right, a majority of Democrats now think that one term is plenty for Joe Biden, given his results. I don't blame him. Given his approval numbers, of course, people want him out of there. Right? Only 37% of Democrats actually want him to seek a second term. Does that sound like, oh, I'm here for the American people? No, it sounds like you're just there for yourself, Joe. All right. As you all know, recent news came out. I was going to do a video on this yesterday, but I figured, the live stream should be able to cover it. Trump got indicted again for his documents, right? Former president said Thursday evening that he has been indicted in a federal criminal investigation. He has a video out. This is all based on his boxes and not returning the documents, I believe. But the dichotomy I want to put here is the fact that, Joe Biden is guilty of the same thing, but they're not here persecuting him. Now, some people will say, oh, he's the current president. You shouldn't be prosecuting the president while he's serving his term. Sure, I give it to you. But you know who we never really prosecuted? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton had less standing. She's not a president. She had her, I forgot what the mail emails, and she deleted it. And someone in the FBI just said, oh, no, it's fine. She had no intent. How you judge intent? To me, humans, we can't judge intent. So how he could make that claim that, oh, she wasn't intending to do it? How Trump was intending to do it? Right? Biden was guilty of the same thing, and Biden was a vice president. Right? And this two-tier justice is why everyone thinking that the DOJ is a political weapon now. It's being weaponized. And for the Democrats to sit here and play, oh, we're just holding people accountable. No one's above the law, as long as you don't have a D next to your name. And this is establishment politics, right? Establishment, and in the video, I have a video for you guys. Just stay tuned, right? You're going to see the dichotomy of, hey, when the establishment is behind you, they hyper emphasize your positive qualities and minimize your negative qualities. You see it with Biden. Biden never came out of his basement, right? That's the hit that Trump always hit at him. But what mainstream media did, I've done this extensively throughout my channel. I exactly point out that majority of journalists are liberals. Majority of journalists are Democrats. Donate Democrat overwhelmingly. So all the journalists are covering this guy favorably while they cover their enemies unfavorably, right? When you're not part of the establishment, aka you're not part of the in-group, right? You see Trump had the most negative coverage in recent memory, I believe. I believe they say 80% of articles was negative towards Trump. The highest amongst any president. And this is the economy I'm going to start going into. Now I'm going into more on the Republican side. In my view, I know I'm going to probably piss off a lot of people who like DeSantis, but in my view, DeSantis is establishment. The reason why I believe DeSantis is establishment is because he's been a career politician. Sorry, that's a red flag for me. He's been a career politician, right? He only got the governorship because he got endorsement from Trump, and him running now, it comes off very political. A lot of people are rallying behind him. A lot of the establishment, if you want to call it the Republican establishment, they're behind him, right? Jeb Bush, right? They could be like, oh, he's vulturing. They're surrounding him. Whatever. He raised the most money, I believe, out of any Republican presidential candidate so far. I believe he raised $3 million a day over the week or whatever. I forget. But the whole point is, Ron DeSantis is a career politician, and with that, I think he has certain allegiances, and I think from my view, the establishment don't see him as much of a threat. They rather have him than Trump. That's the dichotomy I'm trying to put. In my view, Trump and Vivek, sorry, are in the same boat because they're both outsiders, right? And Vivek gives me a lot of 2015 Trump vibes, right? And this is why I like Vivek a lot, because I see him as anti-establishment. If it was to me in my dream scenario, right, and I'm calling it here first, it's going to be Vivek and Trump. Two anti-establishment candidates, and then whoever wins out of them two likely is going to be Trump, because the conservative base is still behind Trump. So, so here we go. We got alleged bribery with Biden, right? But like I said, we're doing this I'm not doing Republican, Democrat. I'm doing establishment versus anti-establishment. Anti-establishment is, hey, we want an alternative to the status quo. Biden represents the Democrats' status quo. Career politician status quo. He has $5 million allegedly for his bribery, for his Burisma case. And I think there's videos out there of him admitting that, hey, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you ain't going to get the money, which is outside his power, right? Openly admitting he did it. But what the DOJ is doing? Nothing. Is the establishment bringing this up? No. The media establishment, legacy media ain't bringing it up. The establishment won't throw them under the bus, right? If these people were accountable to the American people, you think they'll be allowed to do all this stuff? Hell no. Right? But this is what the establishment do. They all they care about is pretty much holding on to their own power. Right? And this is a book I'm gonna recommend in the middle of the stream. It's called The Puppeteer. I like it. I haven't really read much into it, but it's a short read, only 200 pages. But it breaks down how corrupt this career politician, if you look at their careers, they seem to get a lot of money. They seem to become millionaires. They never were millionaires coming into it, but coming out of it, all of a sudden they got all the money in the world, right? And I kind of want to put a dichotomy. I'm almost done, guys, and then we'll get into the video. Polls showed most Americans don't want Biden or Trump to run, right? And this is something favorable for something unfavorable for Trump and Biden as well. And here's a crazy strategy that I'm kind of referring to, because in my mind, I'm a populist, right? I want what's best for my country, my people. And if what's best for my country and my people is Biden cannot win re-election. Now, walk with me in this strategy. What can happen to guarantee that Biden will lose? In my mind, I think RFK would run as an independent. I think that could possibly be the case. If RFK runs as an independent, it will just be him and Trump, right? If I take the scenario being between him and Trump. Those Democratic voters, they're not going to vote, because we already seen it. Only 37% of Democrats actually want Biden to run. So that means most of the Democrat voters will vote for RFK. Now, the problem here is that the establishment Democrats not going to really allow that to happen. I don't know how they're going to stop him, but I think if RFK was really about, hey, like Biden can't be the guy, and RFK and Trump, they share similar policy positions. The only difference is that I think RFK is against fracking, I believe, or he's against oil. I know he's very clean energy. He's on that clean energy train, right? But I believe if the DNC does not open up primary debates and they keep trying to shelter Biden from being challenged for his nomination, I think that's a lot of leverage that RFK can wield, because I think he's like the 20%. He has 20% in the primary polls with the current Democrats running right now. If I was RFK, and it looks like RFK could do this because he's still going around trying to call the DNC to open up the debates, calling Biden to debate him, having a conversation. I think a lot of Democratic voters will be behind him, right? And if I was a Democrat, I'll be raising holy hell on the DNC. But this is how the DNC work. Now, if the RNC tried this ish, I don't think it's going to look good on them either. All right. Oh, let's imagine RNC. Oh, DeSantis is our guy. We don't need no debates. Oh, holy hell will raise. Right. And Trump will run as an independent. We know what Trump will do. But I wonder if RFK would do the same thing. Run as an independent. It will guarantee that Biden loses. Guaranteed. But that's if he's really about like the people. And end of the day, I know politics is all about ego. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? And this is one of the reasons, because I'm part of these Americans that don't want Biden or Trump to run. I want a new phrase. I want someone new. That's why I like Vivek, But I don't know. I'll see. I'm right now. I'm waiting for the debates. Honestly, I'm waiting with bated breath, and I got through there in 15 minutes. So I'm going to go through this video with Patrick Bet-David. He gave some good content. Right now, I'm just getting ready so you don't stay too long. So he put this video out called "Why Free Thinkers Are Anti-Establishment," and he brings up some parallels with JFK and how he came up in the Democratic Party, and how why I am so against career politicians and why I'm such a big populist is exactly what's happened with RFK. When someone comes in and legitimately wants to reform the system, a lot of bad things happen to them, right? And that's how much people in the establishment and legacy media are willing to protect their power, right? So, but let's get into it. Let me get the video ready for you guys. I hope you guys enjoying the content. Don't forget to like the stream on your way in, and let's get into the video. So this is Why Free Thinkers Are Anti-Establishment. I think it's a really good video, and it's only 17 minutes. So let's get into it and let's dive in.
If you get value from this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. But if it gets you thinking and you want to argue with other people, share it with others. Let's get right into it. So, anti-establishment, establishment, the oblivious. Obviously, if you're going to be part of the oblivious, the world dictates what your life's going to be like. You pick
and this is my case for, that's why I went into the rational ignorance part before, is because it's not in anyone's best interest to really be informed about politics. Because what you gain from being informed about politics, oh yeah, you can hold a discussion, hey, but at the end of the day, you're only one vote. The amount of knowledge you have will be more beneficial and more scalable if every American was doing that. But that's too much cost. Because, like, imagine you're an informed voter, but there's 10 uninformed voters. They cancel out your vote, right? It's a net negative. So rational ignorance will tell you, hey, it's not worth it to spend time and knowledge to actually learn about politics, long-term ramifications for policy positions, why welfare is bad, right? The long-term consequences of policies done in the past implementations, right? It's not beneficial for you unless you're a political strategist, someone who's interested in politics like I am and do it for content. There's not a lot of motive for regular average people to really be informed about politics, and this is the big upward struggle that a lot of political content creators have. But we try to make this as engaging as possible. But let's get back into the video. I don't want to talk too much.
Choose. But if you're part of the anti-establishment movement, you're part of the group that wants to fight for freedom. This side wants to control. So think anti-establishment freedom, think establishment control. Elite, majority. Pretty heavy topic here, so bear with me. Before we get started, if your English is like mine and it's not your first language, let's look at the definition of each word as well as the synonyms linked to these words. So the word anti-establishment is a belief which stands in opposition to the conventional social, political, and economic principles of a society.
Yes, I believe that too, right? Like, so far so good, right, guys? Like, we explained all this before. A belief which stands in opposition to conventional social, political, and economic principles, right? What is the biggest ideal they always push? Oh, we need more government control, right? We need more government. Government is here to help, right? The worst thing a government can say is, I'm here to help. That was from, I believe, Ronald Reagan, right? And it's true. Like, you see, I can give an example with the Department of Education. You're telling me the more money I spent in the Department of Education, the more the quality of the education stays like this and even deteriorates? Huh? That don't make any sense. Why are they still campaigning about funding public schools if the result that these kids are getting is still worse? It's still going bad. It makes no sense to me. But the status quo is like, oh, no, you should just, don't you want kids to have a good education? And a good education equals spending more money. Only in government where you put more money into it, you get a worse result. It's like throwing money into a fire. You might as well throw money into a fire doing that. And it shows you is the whole point of government is not, it has a conflict of interest. The whole point of government right now, and this is my establishment take, as he pointed out, the populist, and this is where I'm kind of categorizing the anti-establishment as a populist. A populist wants freedom, while the establishment wants control. That's true. So all they want is control over the Department of Education. So that way they can give $200,000 funding to New York for transgender teaching, right? Public schools. There was recently a brawl that happened somewhere in San Francisco trying to push LGBT into classrooms, and parents was boycotting it by not putting their kids through the sessions. And now it's becoming a hoopla about this. And you see it. The establishment want control. They want to control what your kids are taught, what your kids believe. And this is why I said the purpose of, at the end of the day, a government, regardless if it's doing it intentionally or not, is pushing values onto your kids. My argument is, hey, at least let it push values that is beneficial for the masses. Nationalism, I don't know, whatever this thing is. The government should be pushing the children towards something virtuous. This is one of the arguments for why we should kind of put some type of moral or religious, it don't even have to be, oh, you got to believe in the Bible. It's just, hey, believe in a creator, and the creator is watching over America, whatever that creator could be. If you're a Muslim, that creator is whoever you say is, however they name God. Christians, they name it, they have their name for it. You get me? But the fact that we're not teaching any kind of worldview or values or principles in our school, but the principles we're teaching them is LGBTQ, tolerance is good, tolerance is submission. If an LGBT person tells you, hey, you got to call me this, even if it's not objectively true, you must call them this because feelings matter more than facts. Is it any surprise a lot of our young kids are so liberal or overly progressive? It's because these are the values that are being pushed in our public school. And that's because what? The establishment, it guarantees what? The establishment ability to control. I digress.
The term was first used in a modern sense in 1958 by the British magazine New Statesman to refer to its political and social agenda. So if we look at synonyms and similar words to anti-establishment, you will find alternative, non-traditional, unconventional, underground, pioneering, state-of-the-art, trailblazing.
And these concepts you can attribute kind of to Trump, right? Trump was an alternative politician, a non-traditional politician, definitely unconventional, right? Underground, where to me he was underestimated, and I think Vivek is in that same category as well, and I think he's going to do very well in the debate stage. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked and surprised about how well Vivek does, and I'm already starting to see some of the bigger political commentators starting to take notice of Vivek, right? I think Matt Walsh recently, I was watching his show. He was surprised. He said, hey, I like Vivek's answers to addressing foreign policy or addressing the Ukrainian war. I like how his take on that, right? And I'm starting to think as we get closer to the primary debates, the RNC's primary debates, Vivek is he's going to start extending that lead. I think Mike Pence, Carl, I forgot his name, the Christie guy, the big guy, right? And Nikki Haley, I think all these guys are too establishment to like really matter. The only establishment guy, in my view, I think Ron DeSantis is establishment because of his career politician status. Is those three? I think those three are the only. If you're not those three, I think I'm not taking you seriously. I'm sorry. I'm being honest because I think debating wise, intellectually wise, Vivek got it. Like I think he's gonna give Trump some trouble too. I think Trump is only gonna win just because of that. Hey, this is his last shot. He will be unleashed. People want him to be like, you're fired. That's what people want. Because at the end of the day, emotions matter a lot. This is why the charisma point is getting hammered on Ron DeSantis right now. Because people, if you want to drive turnout, people have to be inspired to vote for you. And I'm not, as a native Floridian, I'm not inspired to vote for Ron DeSantis. And actually, logically, I'm more inclined and more incentivized to vote against Ron DeSantis because if Ron DeSantis lose, I keep him for 4 years. If he win, I only get him for 2. So it is in my best interest to pick anyone but Ron. But hey, we'll see at the debate stage. But as you can see, you can start thinking, because to me, Ron DeSantis don't come across to me as an alternative. I feel like he's like what they call him Trump light, baby Trump, Trumpism without Trump. He's not unconventional. He's usual. I mean, he's trying to be unconventional. I think that's why he messed up the Twitter thing, because it's not natural for him to be unconventional, right? I think he's more play by the book. But hey, though, he got great policies. I think he's not trailblazing. I don't know. He is pioneering though, because I'll give him the abortion bill he passed, right? But he's presenting himself more conservative, and I don't know how that will play out in the independent vote, because that was the biggest hoopla of why we should vote for DeSantis. He's more electable than Trump. While if you saw Trump in the town hall debates, he presented himself as more of a moderate on abortion. He didn't shy away. He said, "Hey, look, I did this. I'm proud of this. It allowed pro-lifers to be on the negotiating table. Now we can actually fight for life, while instead of being one hand behind our back and trying to debate the merits of pro-life position." And especially when he said, "Oh no, the pro-abortion people are radical. They want to abort kids at 9 months." Trump handled the town hall very, in my view, it helped him a lot. And then this indictment stuff, it's crazy because it's like in the debate stage, how are you going to like attack Trump? Trump's going to be like, "Yo, they scared of me. They don't want me running. Look what they doing to me. I'm getting prosecuted out here. Who else is getting prosecuted?" Only Ron can really raise his hand. Ron will be like, "Yeah, I got prosecuted for COVID." Okay, right? That's it. But I think Ron DeSantis is going to have the biggest target on his back during the debate stage because he's the only one that a lot of people can really criticize without drawing ire from the conservative base for the most part. And this is just my take. I'm a Vivek guy, so you can't really say, "Oh, you're just coping for Trump. You're a Trumper. You're a Trumper." No, I'm a Vivek guy, okay? But yeah, I digress. I think I've been talking a little bit too much. Let's get back into the video.
Those are some of the words that are linked to anti-establishment. You pick and choose which one is yours. Let's look at establishment. Definition of the establishment describes the dominant social group, the elite, who control a polity, an organization, or an institution. And if we look at synonyms or similar words to it, you will find the authorities, the system, the ruling class, the regime, bureaucracy, status quo, big brother.
Status quo is kind of what we're dealing with right now, right? The status quo Democrat, the status quo Republicans, and I think a lot of young people my age, we want something different. We actually want someone to fight for a belief, a vision. I think this is why I think I like Vivek and Trump, because there's a vision of what they want American to be. And Ron, to me, comes off as he's just anti-democrat or anti-woke, right? I like the woke stuff. Don't get me wrong. I like the anti-woke stuff, but what picture is he painting for the ideal society that he will create with his policies? I think that's what he's missing. And this is the charisma part that everyone has been trying to articulate about Ron. And it's something that has been shown off time and time again in our history, right? How Abe Lincoln won. Abe Lincoln was like, "No, I'm going to start this separate party because I don't believe in none of this stuff," right? And it was a split vote between the two Democrats that ran against him. And that's how he became the first Republican president in U.S. history, right? Trump did something unprecedented too. It's like whenever the sentiment is changing, the establishment is always late to the party. The establishment is, as Patrick Bet-David articulated it, he's the ruling class, right? RNC, right? I wanted, I forgot her name already, but the RNC chair, I didn't want her keeping her job. Ronna McDonald, I forgot her name. But I don't want her Ronna McDaniels was the chair lady. I wanted her to step down. I'm like, "Yo, aren't y'all tired of losing? Why we keep rewarding the same people over and over again?" And it's because the establishment want her there, right? Now, I think Trump did a bad job endorsing her, right? But I think he was just trying to build a political alliance, right? But hey, I digress. I think I've been rambling too much. I think we need to get further into the video. So.
And the list goes on. Again, you pick and choose. Do you relate to the anti-establishment or the establishment? Now let's look at the oblivious. The definition of oblivious: not aware of or not concerned about what is happening around one.
And that's most of America. I'm sorry to say that. And this is why I wanted to start this channel. I kind of want to make more Americans aware of what's going on, right? Because if we keep having first level thinkers first order thinkers out here, they're going to be very reactionary, and very reactionary people are very impressionable with narratives. They won't go in, do the work. They'll be like, "Oh no, this confirms my thoughts about this guy," right? Trump gets 80% negative coverage, and then you wonder why when you talk to regular people, they have TDS. It's because the journalists, everyone and their mom talks negative about Trump, and people go, "Yeah, I guess he is a bad guy," right? But then when you get them to think second order thinking, like, okay, look more long term. Hey, look at more than just a 30-second clip of Trump. Look at his speech in full context. Oh, that makes sense. That's why that happens. But remember, end of the day, it's human nature. It's fast and easy to just make an assumption on representation. This is why first impressions matter a lot. But I digress. Only I can tie in human psychology into politics. Only me. No. Jordan Peterson was the first one to do that. But hey, I digress.
And if we look at synonyms or similar words, you will find unaware, unconscious, heedless, unmindful, insensible, ignorant, blind, deaf, unobservant, unconcerned, insensitive, detached, removed. I can give a
And I think this is a perfect list. Like if you're like not an activist, but an advocate, unaware, unconscious, heedless, unmindful, insensible, ignorant, blind, deaf, unobservant, right? Unconcerned. All right. Those are kind of buzzwords that we can use to, okay, how do we get the everyday average people to worry about these issues? Make them concerned about it, right? Make them attached to these issues. Okay, this is why this is why the parent stuff was the smart. That's why I think if the Republican Party was smart, they'll hammer on education. Because I think education is a big, for me as a father, that's a big pain point. Like, yo, you want to get motivated people? Talk about how these negative ideas are infecting the kids' school. CRT has been proven that when kids are exposed to critical race theory, their self-esteem, their reports of self-esteem goes lower, right? Because it teaches this dichotomy that, oh, you're helpless because of the way you were born, and you're evil because of the way you're born. No one's safe from this. And if a politician wants, hey, is this good for kids? These concepts, is this good to teach people this stuff about themselves? No, it's not, right? And I think if you can get the messaging to make someone from going from aware to unaware, unconscious to conscious about these issues, mindful about these issues, make them informed about these issues, I think you can transform a lot of ignorant voters. Because I think the Democrats win because they have a larger share of the uninformed voter. They have the largest share of the oblivious crowd, the oblivious voter. Because they got Hollywood behind them, they got media behind them, right? If The Rock tells you, hey, I'm endorsing Joe Biden, and you're a big fan of The Rock, you like The Rock, right? You're unmindful. You're going to vote. Oh, Rock say he's a good guy, I'm going to do it. Unaware of what the long-term ramifications of Joe Biden's policies, right? And this is a big pattern in American politics. And I think, there's right now, I know a lot of like Vivek, he talks about how he wants to restrict the voting privileges, right, of America. He sees that voting is not really a right, it's a privilege, and that people's rights are, hey, you pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, but voting is not a right. Voting is a privilege. This is why when a criminal does a crime, their voting rights get taken away, and I agree with that. But right now in the current circumstance, I think the best thing we can do is try to get our positions out there, try to clarify ourselves, trying to turn these ignorant voters into more informed voters, right? And try to show them, hey, this is why our solution is better. I think we need more advocates. That's all I'm trying to say. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
A few more, but I think you get the idea. You get to pick and choose again. Are you more anti-establishment, establishment, or oblivious? If you are a free thinker, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are an entrepreneur, you automatically fall under the category of anti-establishment. Now, having said that, look, if you choose to be part of the oblivious crowd, you already know life is a little bit more peaceful because you don't have a lot of decisions to make. The pressure's not on you. It's just kind of like, I'm going to live my life. I don't care what they do. I don't have any control over it anyways.
Which is a fair point, right? And this goes back to in the beginning of the video when I brought up about rational ignorance, right? They're like, hey, why do I care? I don't have control over this anyway, right? Especially if you're individual, right? They're going to be like, hey, you're going to learn all this stuff. You make an informed vote. And that's the example I did. And then 10 people make an uninformed vote against you. And then the country ends up like this, right? And this is why media is so important. This is why censorship is such a pain point for conservatives. And this is why conservatives get mad about that. They're like, yo, you're not giving us a fair shake. Let us have our ideas out there. Why you have to sanitize the platform out of our ideas? That's the establishment talking. Because at the end of the day, the establishment care about control. So I digress.
So there's actually peace in that, but the bad is somebody can control you. But there's pros and cons in both being anti-establishment and establishment. Here's what they are. If you are pro-establishment, the pros are the elite has your back. They will underreport mistakes you make. They will make excuses for you. They will defend you.
Who that sound like? Biden, right? Elite has your back. Underreport your mistakes you make. How many times Biden fell? You don't hear them mainstream media say, oh, we're concerned about this. He should do a mental examination. No. Let Trump fall one time. Oh my God, you saw Trump. Oh, I forgot the amendment already. The 25th Amendment. Get him out of office. Bill Clinton had a whole affair in the White House. Media don't cover that. Media don't hold it against them. They be like, oh, people, we all make mistakes here. That's how the media will cover it. The media is biased. Who's more pro establishment than the Democratic Party? And what the Republican establishment is trying to do is trying to appease to those at power, and that's the media. That's the one who craft the narratives, because they know public perception matters a lot in politics. Because politicians' primary concern is to stay in power. That's their first interest. Hey, I want to stay in my position of power. Okay, how do I do that? Damn, if the media cover me in a negative light, that can hurt my chances of what? Staying in power. But if if a politician knew there was a more informed America, they won't worry about mainstream media. They'll be like, oh, America, they'll see my point. They'll see what I'm trying to do here, right? Andrew Hubert says nihilism is pointless indefinitely. Okay. It's pointless indefinitely. Yeah. It's this idea like, oh, doomers, defeatists, but I'm more of the optimistic kind. Like, countries should be willing to fight for it. Like don't complain about what a good person is, be one. Hey, if I want change, be the change, right? You set the example, right? A lot of lefties don't understand that concept. Like, hey, okay, if you believe in something so much, why don't you do it? Oh, I believe black people should get reparations. Okay, give this black guy here all the money in your pocket right now. Oh, I'm poor, I'm broke. Hey, I'm gonna do a video on that because I'm tired of the hypocrisy. The left sit here on their moral high horse. Oh, I care about black people so much. I put a black square on my bio for Black Lives Matter. And then you ask them, oh, okay, here, give this man a money. Oh, I can't do that. I'm poor. I can't do it. Oh, so you only generous with other people's money. And this is how they treat the government. This is how left liberals treat the government. Oh yeah, tax the rich, and then wealth redistribute their money and use it for other ends. But then you ask them, oh, when's the last time you donated to charity? There's a book out there. I think I saw. I think I did a video on it a long time ago. Larry Elder covered it. The book was called "Who Really Cares," and the study showed that conservatives are poorer than liberals, but conservatives volunteer their time more. They adopt more kids than liberals, and they also donate to charity more than liberals, even though liberals make on average more money than conservatives. I was like, duh. Right. And the studies went even deeper is because, conservative people tend to be more religious. Religious people tend to be more giving, more charitable with their time and money compared to non-religious people who tend to be what? Liberals, atheists. Come on. It's not surprising to anybody that this stuff is true. But we let mainstream media paint this narrative that the liberal care more about people than the conservatives. The conservatives are mean. They only care about the rich. It's better to raise a strong people than to fix broken. So it's better to raise strong children than broken people. Like, what are we aspiring to as a country? But hey, I digress. This sounds a whole lot like Biden, Hillary. All you have to do is be a Democrat, and all this is available to you. I digress.
You'll automatically start off with a resume. Their contacts are available to you. Their resources are available to you. And they carry a bigger stick, and they're generally more feared.
Doesn't that sound like the left? Doesn't it? Generally more feared. Who started cancel culture? Now the conservatives, we countered, right? Because end of the day, sorry about that. We countered. Now we boycott. Now we boycott. But that's a response to what they are already doing. I'm telling you, it's a pattern, man. I digress. Let's get back into it.
Than the anti-establishment at first. And by the way, the Oblivious relies mainly on the establishment because the establishment controls the Oblivious. It's almost like it's their asset. The Oblivious are the most valuable asset to the establishment.
I agree. I'm gonna make my point here. Democrats have, if you ask me, if you look in politics, who's the least informed voter? An older American or a younger American? Younger American. Who has the largest share of the young vote? Democrats. So my argument is Democrats have the largest share of uninformed voters in America, right? The Democrats have like athletes endorsing them, actors endorsing them, Hollywood crafting a positive view of them. Oh, they're for the poor, they're for the minority, they're for the little guy. If you're an uninformed voter, wouldn't you just fall for that? Wouldn't you just be, oh, sorry. Wouldn't you just be first order thinking, hey, reactionary, it's easy, fast. Oh, all these Hollywood actors that I like say this guy's a good guy. I guess I'll vote for him. This is why voter turnout always is bad for the Republicans and good for the Democrats because of this whole establishment machine behind the Democratic Party. The Democrats are the true establishment, and the Republican is like the establishment light. Like they're trying to be in that in group, and they all would compromise. And this is why they say both sides. I forgot what it's called, the uniparty. This is why you call it the uniparty. And both sides are like, hey, we all trying to keep our job, so let's compromise, right? But from a social aspect, the left has the left or the establishment. They're the establishment. You got the anti-fascists coming out here beating up on people who don't go along with the narrative, who don't agree with the narrative, starting brawls with parents over kids that's not theirs. Imagine that. Imagine fighting a parent because the parents say, "Hey, I don't want this being taught to my kids," and you say, "No, they must learn this stuff." That sound like anti-fascist to you, or that sound like a fascist to you? Fascism will only come from the left. I agree. Fascism was started from what? A national socialism. National socialist. That's a left position. I don't understand how he gets painted right just because it's national in the name. Can I judge something if it only has one part? So can I call a female dog a woman because it's a female? No, it has to meet both criteria. It has to be a human female. But because it's a female, that must be a human. Human on 4 legs like that? No, I don't think that's a dog. No, that's a woman. This is pretty much the tactic that the left like to do. Call what you're guilty of and project it onto the other side. Slander. That's what they're good at. Ad hominem attacks to distract from the reality of what they're doing, the result of what they're doing. But yeah, I digress. I think I've been sidetracking too much. Let's get further into the video.
So now let's look at the con on the pro-establishment. You are a slave. They control you. You have to do what they tell you to do. You give up your freedom. It's an element of being a puppet. Deep down inside, you feel like you have to compromise your values and principles. Now let's look at the pros of anti-establishment. You win over people, okay? There's a real loyalty there. You're fighting for your beliefs. You are free. You get to pick and choose which fights you want to fight and which ones you don't. You get to make decisions that match your values and principles. You find other people like yourself.
Hey, who that sound like? Does that sound like Biden? No. That sound like an RFK. That sound like a Trump. That sound like a Vivek. Hell, even Ron has that. Everyone else, no. Now, to me, Ron looks like, oh, I'm trying to change the establishment from within. But I don't think that's what America needs right now. But hey, I'll put him in that camp. You win people over, check. Trump won people over, right? Even if you don't believe he did, he won for a reason. He won the election for a reason. RFKs have real loyalty. I believe RFK is fighting for his belief. I believe Trump is fighting for his belief. I think Vivek is fighting for his belief. Ron, I don't know. I think Ron is just anti whatever the Democrats are doing. That's just my take. That's just my take. Because he doesn't have a vision. It don't seem like. His only vision is woke will come here to die. Okay, but what else? All right? But yeah, I digress. And then the last point is I don't know what Ron's values are, but I know he is very conservative. That's all I know. But I want to know what his vision will be for the future. And I think if he can get that piece down, I think Ron will be a lot more competitive. Just my 2 cents. Just my 2 cents. It's just my speculation, guys. Don't take this as not any end of the day. Anyone says, we're all just speculating here, right? And I can give you what I'm pulling from, what I'm seeing, and that's all I can give you. It's not a prediction. It's not an absolute fact. It's just a speculation on my part. So don't take anything personal, because I apparently I've been hearing a lot of DeSantis people. They go crazy if you criticize their guy. I don't know. I mean, I can take the smoke, but I'm just saying. I digress. Let's get back into it.
So now let's look at the con. The con is the elite will demonize you. They have more power than you. They will over scrutinize you. In essence, they'll amplify whatever you do wrong. So let's just say if it's a 2.
Donald Martin, hopefully not the bad way. Hopefully a good way. Hopefully a good way. That's all I'm never disparaging anyone. And modern Josephus, I hope I said that right, for $5. Every president from Washington has been a nationalist. If the opposite of nationalism is globalism, I'll be a nationalist. Exactly. And that's what populism really is. And you're going to see JFK, in my view, was a nationalist. Our, Ronald Reagan, nationalist, right? Biden is not a nationalist. Biden to me is a globalist, and you see it. Look how much money he helped shell out to Ukraine to guard their borders, but he hasn't even visited our. I think he did actually, but he doesn't pay much attention to our borders because he doesn't respect the sovereignty of our country, but he respects the sovereignty of a distant foreign land. That's not. This is why populism is on the rise. This is why I think if the Democrats were smart, they'll put an RFK in there, but he's not establishment. But hey, I digress. Let's continue with the cons. But you see it. The elites will demonize you. Trump, DeSantis, right? Pretty much, if you got an R next to your name, you're getting demonized. If you're a black conservative, you're getting demonized, right? Black liberals, like racist white liberals, call you racist name, call you the N word, right? Because you go against the establishment. In the black community, being a conservative is anti-establishment because 90% of the black community vote Democrat. All I'm saying is, hey, it's time to try something new, black people. You've been voting Democrat 50 years. Let's try something new. No, you're a coon. You're a clown. Bro, you don't understand how tired I am already of people with no argument calling me names. But hey, I digress. I'm getting a little, I got to try to finish this under an hour. So let's get into the video. Oh, no.
They'll sell it as a 9. The elite expect perfection from you. The elite will spread rumors about you. The elite will make it hard for you to find a job or compete in a marketplace. The risk of being part of the establishment is 100 times bigger than being part of the establishment. If you're still watching this, you're a little bit crazy. I want to tell you this, but I called it. This thing's not going to get a lot of views because some people are going to say this thing is crazy, but I'm talking to you openly and freely because I am a guy that left Iran, that lived at a refugee camp, that came to America for one word, and it's freedom. And
that's my parents too. Escaped the corrupt government of Haiti, right? My parents did it the legal way. This is why I don't have no sentiments for illegal immigrants, right? Because you broke the law, you skipped the line, right? My mom waited 15 years to get to the United States. I'm like, yo, if my mom can wait 15 years, why you couldn't? Right? But hey, I digress, right? But some people, some not black liberal, sorry, some African Americans gonna sit here and tell me, oh, Kenny, you got the white man on your neck. No, I don't. There's nothing oppressing me. There's nothing stopping me but this guy here. If my YouTube channel don't blow up, it's because of this guy here. Ain't because of racism. Ain't because, them white people don't like a black man that can read. I control my own destiny, right? That's it. I'm the captain of my own ship. If I want autonomy, then I must accept responsibility as well. But out here, too many people are using their race, their sex, their sexual orientation as an alibi for why negative things happen to them when that's just life in general. But, hey, I digress, man. It seems like to me that immigrants and nationalized citizens, like immigrants that became U.S. citizens, they have more pride in America than Americans that have been raised here for generations. And I blame our school system for that. I blame our college system for that because they teach this anti-American, hate yourself for being American propaganda in schools. And this is why I said if we were smart, the first thing that will go is the Department of Education. This is why I like Vivek. Vivek say, hey, yeah, the Department of Education need to go. The administrative state need to go out of education. Because all you're doing is steering the young towards a path that you want them to go. But yeah, I digress, man. Let's get back into it.
That's why I'm fighting for it, even after I've already made my money, because I know there's other people like you out there that are going to watch this saying, I relate to this. So now, our case study today, John F. Kennedy. Let's get right into it. So what made John F. Kennedy unique? One, they did not need to sell out to the establishment.
So here's my points, and as Patrick Bet-David goes through the points, this is how I judged Ron DeSantis. Okay, so let's continue.
Because they had their own money. Matter of fact, when you look at the campaign contribution when he ran for office, 50% of the campaign's total budget came from his father, Joseph Kennedy. However, Joseph Kennedy was quoted saying, "I'll spend every dollar I have to get my son elected." JFK's campaign cost somewhere around $20 to $25 million, and Joseph Kennedy at the time was worth $400 million in 1960. If you're saying, pal,
So can I make the argument that the best presidents always came from outside? Like they did something before they became politicians. And this is my gripe against career politicians, Joe Biden. If all your life you've been a politician, you have never been directly affected by bad policies that your party has made, the other party has made, or you personally put into office. I remember there was a story, I forgot the politician's name, but the politician was like, I advocated for so much regulation on businesses. Then when I came out of becoming a politician and started my own businesses, some of those bad policies came back to haunt me. Like it made him harder. He said, yo, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And then he realized, yo, my party pushed this. And some of these things are something I recommended it. I thought I was protecting people. I thought I was regulating the system. But now I see, becoming a businessman myself, how inefficient these policies are. And I'm like, oh, it takes a politician to do something in the private sector to actually understand the negative consequences of their policies, of their bad policies. Right. So this is why I don't really trust career politicians all that much. But hey, I could be convinced if you give me a compelling argument for why someone should do it. I'm just saying, as a general rule of thumb, we should be more skeptical of career politicians than outsiders. But hey, I digress.
Why is it such a big deal? Because most people who run for office, they don't really put any money into the campaign. I don't even know if Hillary Clinton put any money into her campaign. It was other people that gave money. Let's look at a couple other people outside of Kennedy's, like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan took $6.4 million out of his own money into the campaign, which was 10% of the total budget. Let's look at Ross Perot, who didn't win, but he self-funded 97% of his 1992 presidential campaign. He got all the way up to 21%. He didn't win, but he caused Bush to lose, and he caused Clinton to win. Let's look at Trump. When it comes down to Trump in 2016, he funded 72% of his 2016 presidential campaign.
So this is kind of the reason why a lot of people like Trump and like trust Trump. This is why people think, oh, everything that's coming out of Trump's mouth, it's what he's saying, right? With Ron DeSantis, you have this feeling like, damn, yeah, you have a big war chest, Ron DeSantis, but damn, you don't have a lot of your own money. You're very reliant on the establishment. And if you're reliant on the establishment, you don't think the establishment is going to say, hey, we need a favor. Hey, we helped you win. Right? And this is why I think, hey, I don't think it's going to be hard for Ron to be like, oh, Trump is establishment. And like, no, the establishment hate him. Look how many people are running against him. Biden's more establishment than anybody. I'll give you that. But to try to paint Trump as an establishment, I think it's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard to really paint him that way. And this is why I said in the debates, it's going to be really hard to attack Trump, but it will be really easy to attack Ron. But hey, we'll see. End of the day, I'm speculating just as much as anyone else. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
Kind of put that into perspective. Hillary Clinton spent more money on her campaign in 2016, and she put nothing into it. Ooh. Just to kind of tell you, one got money from the institutions, the other one was his own money.
And she still lost.
Of it. So
crazy.
Before you get excited about this, what's the risk? There's a risk. John F. Kennedy got assassinated. Ronald Reagan, there was an attempt for assassination. Trump, character assassination. Ross Perot never won. So we would never know what would happen to him if he spent 97% of his money to go up against the establishment.
So I think Donald Martin, RFK may make the leap to independent and scrub this election like Ross Perot, and he just mentioned it here. So I guess I give you kudos for that. Shout out to you. Yeah, and I agree with that statement too. I think RFK can do the same thing to the Democrats, and that's why I'm saying if from a populist point of view, even if RFK end up winning that election, like let's say he breaks off and say, hey, I'm running as an independent, and he wins the election, I'll be more happy with him winning than Biden winning. All right, the process of elimination. That's how I am. But hey, a lot of people, like, because at the end of the day, I want a Republican to run and win the election. But to me, I'm like, yo, I'm rather, hey, let's not have Biden at least. That's the compromise I'm going with. Best case scenario, a Republican win that trade off. But can we all agree Biden should not win the election in 2024? Regardless if you're a Democrat, a moderate, or a Republican. But I don't think I'm gonna get that. But people have their different feelings about it. But hey, I digress.
You may watch this and say, Pat, I feel like I relate to the anti-establishment, but I wish I had a Joseph Kennedy as a father to do this. You're right. I'm not sitting here and telling you not to. I'm telling you, go make your money. There's three different types of rich. The first is those that are rich, but they're boring. They don't know how to create a following. Could be Bloomberg. Number two, those that are rich.
He said Bloomberg. Oh, Sorry, guys. I had to laugh that
willing
one.
to sell out, meaning anything for me to become president because I want to get that status on my title, right? Then there are those who have the money, who are fighters, who are true believers, and who are charismatic. That last one, that is very hard. If you got somebody like that is willing to go up against the establishment, that is very problematic because that person cannot be controlled, and they create tens of millions of followers, which drives the establishment insane.
Yeah, it does. The establishment like control, and what hits harder than someone who's famous, has influence, and has money? This is a big draw. This is why I like Vivek. Vivek has some of his own money. Now, some people said, I remember when I mentioned in one of my videos, I have a live stream of me making the case for why I think Vivek will be a GOP dark horse. And a lot of people were telling me that, oh yeah, do you know George Soros funded some of his companies and all this stuff? And I give it to you there. I think it'll put some cause to concerns with Vivek, but I don't think the way I see Vivek presenting himself, he seems very convicted. Like, hey, like you ain't gonna change what I said, especially when he had to step down from his own company, standing up to Black Lives Matter. Right? Oh yeah, look, I believe we all the same. We shouldn't be kowtowing. We don't need no black squares in our bios. We don't need to fracture our country over this stuff. It's sad what happened. His executives said, nah, we resigning because that wasn't good enough, right? So in my case, I seen instances of Vivek taking a stand on what he believes in. So I don't think that's much of an issue with Vivek that George Soros once funded or funded his company. Because I think George Soros, at this point, it seems like George Soros have money in everything, in my view. Like just like that BlackRock, Vanguard has their hands in almost every company. I think George Soros is the same way, but I don't think that's enough to discredit Vivek's convictions. But hey, I digress. Let's continue.
Okay, so let's take a look at which one of the establishment didn't like John F. Kennedy. First one being the CIA. JFK was known to being critical of the CIA, especially after the failed Bay of Pigs invasion. He also reported wanted to reform the CIA, which he saw as being too powerful and secretive. For example, after Castro led a revolution that overthrew the Cuban government in '59,
Donald Martin says, read more about Soros. I heard some bad things. I don't know. I feel like I'm mentally scarred myself reading about this. Because didn't this man like survive the Holocaust by pretty much selling out his own people? I heard something like that about him. But yeah, I would look into Soros more. But what I wanted to talk about was how JFK kind of didn't like the CIA. But I don't know. And it's the same thing we're going on with the DOJ right now, right? We have like two candidates, I think, running against like shrinking the government a little bit. I think Vivek wants to pretty much remove the Department of Education. I don't think they're going to like that too much. But hey, modern Joseph, I hope I said that, Josephus, I'm just cautious with Vivek, but I'll vote for him. The only Republican I wouldn't vote for is Haley, Christie, and us. Bro, some of these people that's running, I don't even know half of them. Yeah, but yeah, for sure, Haley, I don't know what she's running for. I think she's just running to get donations and a book deal at this point. But hey, I digress, man. But my consolation prize with Vivek is I would want him to be in an advisor role for one of the winning administrations. I think he deserved that much because that man is smart. And his books that he read, I have it here, Nations of Victims and Woke Inc. Bro, he'll do some damn, especially if Trump or DeSantis is trying to shrink the government. I think they need Vivek on one of their advisory boards, guaranteed. But I digress.
The CIA wanted to conduct an operation to overthrow Castro. Eisenhower did not want to make this big of a decision so close to the end of his presidency, so the CIA urged JFK to approve the operation a month after his inauguration, and it goes terribly. Now, JFK fires CIA Director Allen Dulles after the Bay of Pigs invasion in '61. Dulles was the director of CIA since 1953, and JFK believed that the CIA had not been honest with him about the chance of success, which led to him firing Richard Bezell Jr., the deputy director of the CIA. And in many of JFK's biographies, there's a quote that's referenced there multiple times. I'm going to splinter the CIA in 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind.
A Democrat talking like that? Imagine Biden saying that now. No one will believe him. Hassan Hutchinson was a former governor of Arkansas. Never heard of him either until he decided to run. I mean, that's what it's becoming to. Hey, I want to increase my national brand recognition. Let me run for president. Like, even if I have no chance. Like, I don't know, bro. It's funny, but I wanted to talk about kind of that John F. Kennedy and To me, he comes off more conservative, but he's to me is what a liberal was, right? And now if you look at now, a liberal is something not JFK. It's craziness to me. Oh, I want to shrink the CIA. Now that's a conservative position. Hey, I want to defund the Department of Education. Now that's a conservative position. It seemed like it was a liberal position back in the day in 1964. Classic Democrat. Yes, exactly. RFK, man. Hey, look. I know a lot of Democrats are gonna hate what I said, but hey, JFK need to run as an independent, man. I'm being serious. He needs to run, but that's if we don't want Biden to win, right? But hey, to me, that's the ultimate payback. Oh, DNC, you didn't want to host any debates? Okay, I'm gonna run as an independent. Screw you. Like, yo, my constituents don't want you to run for a second term. I already showed you the proof. Only 37% of Democrats want Biden to run again. I hear Stephen A. Smith out here saying, yeah, we need a new guy. Man falling over himself, falling over invisible sandbags. But he thinks he should run for re-election. Craziness. I used to not like JFK, but mostly for his morals. Yes. Now I have learned more about him. I like him more. Here's a caveat, because I've been reading a lot about history lately, especially around the civil rights movement. The black vote would have never went Democrat if it wasn't for JFK. Because JFK, I think, if some people don't know, Martin Luther King went to jail. And Eisenhower had a chance to, I forgot, whoever JFK was running thing, I think it was Eisenhower. Someone can correct me in the chat or in the comment section. He called Martin Luther King first. And because he reached out to Martin Luther King first, and this is Republicans' problem. They're so, how you say it? Not passive, but they're so cautious to a fault. Like, hey, most Republican politicians, they're scared to really take risk. But it wasn't like that back in the day with George Washington and them. Like, to me, I think conservatives need to get that fighter back. And this is why Trump has such an appeal. Ron DeSantis has such an appeal. Vivek is going to show he has that appeal as well. But the willingness to fight for your morality and your beliefs, right? And even though we don't agree with JFK's morals, we can say, hey, that man was about his country, right? Because he's the one who he's quoted, ask not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's a nationalist kind of statement for me. So even if I don't agree with his moral view, I could be Christian, he could be a Muslim. We both agree, hey, we want what's best for America. We want America to be the best nation at number one. All right. And I think that's a unifying thing that I think a lot of Republicans can run about. And that's what Vivek is trying to run with as well. A national identity. And I think that's what we need. And I hope that whoever wins the Republican nomination, whether it be Trump or DeSantis, they pick up that mantle and say, yes, hey, we need that national identity. And I think Ron has it too, because I think Ron wanted to put a patriotic education. He put some bill out there for public schools to be required to teach like a balanced view of history and not this warped progressive version of history that's been crammed down in public schools all around the state. Where did we go wrong? Well, he who controls the children controls the future. We allow these Marxists, these ideologues, these people who had an agenda to push a worldview onto the kids, because at the end of the day, liberals have this tendency to always be anti-American, right? Very globalist, right? FDR was an internationalist, right? So we had these people running our public school system and then slowly educating the youth to think more of a globalist mindset. This is why you have a Democratic voter. He's more likely to have Ukraine flags on his bio than an American flag on his bio, right? They've been taught this vision of hate your country, love the world. And I think that's where we went wrong as a nation. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
And there's even a recording of JFK speaking to a group of reporters in 1961 when he says the following: I think it's time we had a complete reorganization of the CIA. It's become an arm of the State Department instead of an arm of the president.
Donald Martin, I have read a book called The Naked Communist, and it mentioned the 48 laws of communism, and a lot of it is deals with, hey, don't teach. Atheism is 90%. Pretty much, they say, if you make the country atheist, and they'll already be 90% communist. So yeah, I get some of the concepts that's already there. But yeah, I think we have a time when we have a complete reorganization of the CIA. This is anti-establishment talk right here, right? This is a populist message, right? And yes, I do believe, what's his name? Lyndon B. Johnson was a classical Democrat, but to me, he was, hey, look, he was a racist, bro. And the only reason he helped pass the civil rights bill is he saw it as a way of gaining political leverage. Remember the quote, "I'll have these ninjas voting Democrat for 200 years." He saw, oh, helping the black vote, make them, this is why I call the Democrats still practicing plantation politics. We'll make them dependent on us, and we can decide and do anything we want to them. This is why Democrats, all they have to do is pander to black folks and 90% vote, right? This is why all they have to do is say, oh, look, the Republicans are racist. Don't have to prove nothing. Just feed into the assumption that black people have about themselves. This is why in public school, or actually in our education system, they never let black people forget the fact that slavery happened, and they try to pin it on the Republican Party, even though the Democrats was responsible for slavery, white supremacy. Bro, if you look back, who revived the Ku Klux Klan? It was Woodrow Wilson in the 1920s. He filmed Birth of a Nation, which sparked culturally all the white supremacists in the country. Woodrow Wilson, Democrat president, he reinstituted segregation. Like, bruh. And then they project that the party switched, when they can't show me any proof. And the platform is still the same. Except they went from a physical plantation to more of a political plantation, where they say if you're poor, you're gay, you're black, you're a woman, you're supposed to vote Democrat. If you don't vote Democrat, you're voting against your best interest. Isn't that racism? Oh, you assume I'm voting against my best interest because I'm a black man voting conservative? Huh? Oh, but we're not racist. Okay, liberal. I digress, though. Let me continue. I'm sorry, guys, for the rant.
JFK eventually did order a reorganization of the CIA. Obviously, the CIA didn't like this. The establishment didn't like this, because the CIA was a good way of controlling people, the oblivious.
Modern Josephus says, Teddy Roosevelt and I think Cooge sat down with a black American to understand them and want to help them. Also, of course, Eisenhower did much for the civil rights. Yes, of course, Eisenhower did. I think I did a video on it. Well, the inconvenient truths about the Democrats. It's a series I started. I do it every Wednesday. I made a playlist. If you want to check it out after this live stream, you can go watch that. But as I explained before, Teddy Roosevelt was actually the first president to invite a black man into the White House. Because I just did a video on this. It's Booker T. Washington. He invited Booker T. Washington to the White House, and a bunch of Democrats didn't like that one, right? And in the 1860s, and this is Dinesh D'Souza's point. Like, I'm just piggybacking off his point, but in the 1860s, not a single Republican owned a slave. That means all the slaves that was owned in the North and the South were Democrats. So you can make the argument that slavery was solely a Democrat versus Republican issue. I'm just saying. That's why I said Lyndon B. Johnson was more of an establishment Democrat, because he used to be a Dixiecrat, allegedly, right? Based on the files that came out. But yeah, I digress.
Second one was a mafia. Some people may say,
appreciate for the subscription on Modern. Oh yeah. Okay, you did watch it. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's get back into the video, because I'm supposed to end this in like 23 minutes, and we're almost halfway through the video.
God, the mafia establishment, isn't that like the ultimate anti-establishment? Yes, but the mafia bought the establishment, so they became the establishment, so they had to protect the establishment. So the Kennedy family comes in saying, hey, if you help us become president, we're going to help you out, and we're not even going to look your way. And then all of a sudden, they win. The mafia helps them, Chicago, all this stuff. Next thing you know, after they win, the Kennedy family's like, hey, we kind of want to back off a little bit. RFK starts going after them and says, what are you doing here? You're making our life hard. Then they go to the establishment. They start talking. Now, both the establishment and the mafia team up to go up against Kennedy, hence the anti-establishment family. Next, he was not a fan of the Federal Reserve, and that's purely establishment.
Ooh, hey, look. The only reason we deal with inflation today is because of the government. Is because of the money printing. That's it. Right. And I think Milton Friedman made this point, the economist. If you check out his book, Populism and Freedom, I have not read it yet. I'm still trying to I have a bunch of books I have to read through, like The Puppeteer. I got a lot of books, guys. I'm sorry. But in that, he talks about how inflation was never an issue until we started creating the Federal Reserve. And one of the examples he used was during the Confederacy and the Union War, when the money printing got stopped being printed in the South. Inflation for a period of time was like zero until they started printing money again. Because, and this is where the Republicans kind of get, I'm starting to bash them a little bit. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, I believe. Who took us off the gold standard? I'm misremembering something right now. FDR created the Federal Reserve, if I remember correctly. And Richard Nixon, I think, did take us off the gold standard. That helped. But the only reason we haven't suffered hyperinflation is because we're the world reserve currency. But if we keep up with the Ukraine mess and keep effing up foreign policy, we can lose that status too, right? But hey, I digress, man. Let's get back into it.
Here's what happened. JFK was critical of the Federal Reserve and wanted to reform it. He believed that the Federal Reserve was too powerful and that it was not accountable to the American people. Executive Order 11110 was issued by President Kennedy on June 4th of 1963. This was a significant impact on the Federal Reserve. The order delegated to the Secretary of Treasury that the president's authority to issue silver certificates, meaning that the Federal Reserve would no longer be sole issuer of currency in the United States.
Hey, I think we need to get that policy back because Biden out here killing us with the inflation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's true, bro. God, oh my God. Yo, imagine that. That's a Democrat. If RFK has any policy close to what his uncle pushing, bro, I might think about voting for him. And that's just on the grounds of that policy. But hey, that's what we have debates for. Debates is supposed to challenge both candidates. Say, hey, I have a problem. There's a problem I noticed with this. Compete to see who can come up with the best solution, and that's the guy who should get our vote. This is why I believe that we should look at politics in the perspective of what's good for the country, not necessarily what's good for ourselves. Because then the Democrats can play this game of let me segment the voting block. Hey, here's my policy just for the gay people. Here's my policy just for the Chinese people. Here's my policy just for black people, right? And we no longer have a common interest. It's divide and conquer, right? And I think with what Vivek is offering, the national identity, I think if we can make people more patriotic, it's almost like patriotism needs to win in America for us to actually make America great again. See what I did there? All right, I will do it. Don't worry, it was corny. But that's the whole point. Like, hey, we're all on the same ship. We all have loyalty to each other because we all want what's best for America. Because if America wins, we all benefit. And I think letting these politicians play the game, enrich themselves, pretty much do policies that negatively hurt the population in an event to stay in power and control what's going on, is the downfall of the American people. This is why populism, if you notice throughout American history, always rises up, because then corruption happened, then people start demanding more, and then you get an RFK. Then they assassinate RFK, then someone else come on down the line, revolutionized it, Ronald Reagan, right? And then someone else come in there. Every time the establishment mess up, Jimmy Carter. Biden is about to be the second. He might be the worst president in history if he keeps this up. But I digress.
So what this did is it reduced the power of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, I remember the 1920s with Teddy, and Teddy did like that progressive era. I don't know what was this aim for progressivism, but then once communism showed itself, Hitler and them, and they were like, oh nah. Then progressives kind of lost their standing. But now we got covert progressives like Biden. I digress.
It increased the power of the Secretary of the Treasury. It created uncertainty about the future of the Federal Reserve, and it led to speculation about the future of the gold standard.
Modern Josephine says, after this video, can you go through some books you have read? Yeah, if I have time. I'll go through this. I got like 7 minutes left on this video, but yeah, I can go through some books I have read.
This next one is a big one. It's one you push around, bad things happen to you. It's the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower warned against this in one of his speeches. Here's what he said.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.
I believe that America, the only reason we should invest in military is to protect our borders and to protect our country from foreign attacks. It shouldn't be to do regime changes and all this stuff. And this is what makes me really populist. Hey, let's worry about ourselves. Let's worry about our house. Let's not worry about what's going on out there. Now, if there's a benefit, like, hey, let's trade. Let's, you get this. Let's come into contract with another nation or another ally, help enrich ourselves. But it has to be in the interest of the nation, right? Instead of going in here, I'm a do, oh, I forgot his name. fire their attorney, fire the prosecutor, or else I withdraw $1 billion from Ukraine. No, I don't think we should be playing those games. I think we should operate more like how Trump was operating. Look out for the best interests of the American people, America. Hey, this is a bad deal. Let's get out of the Paris Accord. I think if we operate more like that, the country will be better. Like, imagine we got one term, we had 4 years of a president that his intention was, hey, I want to make my country better, and look what we got. But and I'm supposed to believe that Biden's more competent than Trump? That's the narrative out there. That's the narrative that the media will have you believe, that Biden's more competent than Trump. Okay, why he's doing worse than Trump? Obama was more competent than Trump. Okay, how come Trump was able to lower down the unemployment of blacks? Because he said, what magic wand? You need a magic wand to do that, Trump. And Trump proved them wrong. So this is why I don't believe career politicians are the way anymore. Because I think they have conflict of interest. Their interest is not actually to make American life better. It's just to keep themselves in power, enrich themselves, get bribes, allegedly, Biden. And that's it. Look, and I'm done talking, man. I'm gonna continue because I kind of want to go through this video before my I'm trying to keep my timestamps. So let's go into it.
So JFK saw this and he continued the criticism of the military-industrial complex,
which I agree.
He wanted to reduce its influence. He wanted to ensure that the military was not used for economic or political gain.
Which is what our politicians are currently doing. Lindsey Graham? Lindsey Graham is doing this. This is the establishment now. This is the establishment, Republican and Democrat. They want to push their democracy on other people. And to me, I always had this belief is like, hey, like Qatar doesn't respect LGBTQ rights. Okay, that's Qatar. Leave Qatar alone. And I always ask, like, whenever a liberal hear me saying that, like, oh, like that's their country, whatever, they're gonna be like, well, I believe that gay people should be respected everywhere, no matter where they go. I said, well, that's you. How far are you willing to take it so that way Qatar adopts your values? Are you willing to go to war to have Qatar be LGBTQ friendly? No. Okay, then stop it. It's good where you at here. Be satisfied with that. Like that's all I'm saying. Like, don't misuse the military. And then the same liberal will complain about the military industrial complex. I said there's a reason for it. They want to create political gain. Hey, we want to transform this country into how we see it. Isn't that colonization? But if you tell a liberal, hey, we're going to invade Qatar because they don't respect the human rights of gay people, they'll be all for it, just like they are for Ukraine. And this is what I'm saying. Liberals are not, live, let live. No, it's live, let live as long as you do it my way. The liberals are still pushing a worldview. The same criticism they give conservatives. Oh, conservatives are trying to push a worldview on everyone else. You're doing the same thing. You're pot calling the kettle black. At least with conservatives, we're up front about it. Hey, we want a more moral and religious society. If the society can't be religious, at least let the society be moral. Right? At least let the society care about its country. Right? But hey, I digress, man.
And JFK had constant disagreements with his advisors about the Vietnam War and was reluctant to get involved in the war, but he was eventually persuaded by his advisors to send military advisors to South Vietnam. However, he was always opposed to sending combat troops to Vietnam, and he reportedly wanted to find a way to end the war without escalating through American involvement. The next one was the establishment candidate, Lyndon Johnson, who could not stand John F. Kennedy.
Bruh, it's going to get interesting because, I just went on a semi-rant against this guy. So this is going to be an interesting one. 5 minutes left, guys.
Because John F. Kennedy was everything Lyndon Johnson wanted to be. Charming, charismatic, great speaker. People loved him. And Lyndon Johnson didn't have that. But Lyndon Johnson was more ambitious. He wanted to be a president so bad. John F. Kennedy really didn't want to be a president. It was his dad's vision that eventually became his vision. But Lyndon, it was his vision. I want to be in power one day. Let me give you a couple examples of why this is important. Handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy and Johnson disagreed about how to respond to the Soviet Union's placement of nuclear missiles in Cuba. Kennedy wanted to make a more cautious approach while Johnson wanted to take a more aggressive approach. The Vietnam War. Kennedy and Johnson also disagreed about the war. Kennedy had authorized the sending of military advisors to Vietnam, but he had not authorized the sending of combat troops. Johnson, on the other hand, escalated the war by sending combat troops to Vietnam. By the way, right after John F. Kennedy was assassinated, you know what Lyndon Johnson did? He escalated America.
Oh my God. Bruh. This is what the establishment will do to get their way, bro. And now we're hearing, FBI was responsible for his assassination. Allegedly. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, right? But from outside perspective, it's like, hey, that's pretty convenient for you, Lyndon B. Johnson. You know, you were a racist. You didn't like black people, right? JFK came out, talked to Martin Luther King, got the black vote. You won. You saw that, like, damn, the black vote uniformly voted for this man. He got office. Can I leverage the same thing now? Okay, JFK gets assassinated. Hey, I want to pass the civil rights bill, which you also disagreed with JFK, if I remember correctly. He didn't want to push it. He said, no, this will divide the party. You ain't going to get the party support for this. Because even when Lyndon B. Johnson was pushing it, the only reason that civil rights bill of 1964 passed was because he had majority of the Republicans vote for it. And then he had to come back to his party and say, hey, look, we can win this. Look. I'm going to have these ninjas voting Democrat for 200 years. If we can't restrict the ninjas' rights, at least we can make use of the ninjas. He had a quote from 1957 talking about something about the ninja bill. And you know what I mean when I said the ninja bill. Right? He said, yo, we can't stop it in 1959. But then these same Democrats would be like, oh, it's unfair, you know, when Lyndon B. Johnson was pitching his war on poverty and say, hey, oh, you can't hobble a man and free him. You chained him, hobbled him, and released him from slavery and expect him now as a free man to just, okay, now go compete. And then he leave out the fact that, hey, it was your party that hobbled him and chained him in the first place. And you want to come up and represent yourself as the solution? Typical Democratic talking point, bro. If you look at welfare incentivizes single mother households. Then the Democrats come out and say, oh, look, we can give you more government dependence. We can give you more social programs to aid you in this poverty. Even though their policy, war poverty, incentivize the people to make the decisions that set them up for that outcome in the first place. Craziness. And this is why I'm against black people. Hey, you've been voting Democrat 50 years. And look what happened. Look at your situation. You're still in the same position. Try something new. Be responsible for yourself. And with responsibility comes power and authority. The Democratic platform never changed. This is why I call the Democrat Party, the Democratic platform, the plantation politics. How they operate is like a plantation. Hey, we want you to be dependent on the state, just like the slaves was dependent on massa. As long as you do what you're supposed to, aka vote for me, or you ain't black, then you give you the cash and prizes. Here's your WIC. Here's your Section 8 housing. Here's your EBT food stamp cards. Here's your Medicare. We're going to take care of you from cradle to grave, just like the slaves were taken care of from cradle to grave. And back in the day, when the Democrats had the plantation, when all the plantation owners were Democrats, they just changed the pitch, right? But yeah, I digress, man. I think I rambled a little bit too much. Let's get back into it.
Involvement in the war, immediately sending troops to Vietnam, and he committed the United States to a war that lasted an entire decade.
Imagine
the next one was the oil companies that John F. Kennedy wanted to go up against, and obviously they're not going to be too happy about it. But remember, the oil companies had a friend, an ally. His name was Lyndon Johnson, which he was from Texas. And this John F. Kennedy keeps getting in the way of these guys making money. John F. Kennedy was very critical of oil companies and wanted to regulate them more effectively. He believed that the oil companies were too powerful and were not accountable to the American people.
Doesn't this sound like if you replace oil company and you put tech companies, wouldn't that be applicable today? And thus my live stream, the historical patterns in American politics. Yo, it's craziness. This is why populism always comes up. When the people want change and the establishment is not listening, a candidate's going to notice and he's going to rise himself up as a populist. Trump. Immigration was a problem. How many people have been complaining about immigration? For years. Democrats and Republicans didn't want to do nothing about it. Trump comes in, I'm going to build a wall, wins the election. Surprise everyone. I'm just saying, man.
People. RFK, AG of the U.S., used the Department of Justice to investigate and prosecute oil companies. RFK was a strong critic of the oil industry, and he believed that the companies were engaging in anti-competitive practices. The DOJ's antitrust division, this lawsuit led to the largest antitrust settlement in the history at the time, and it forced the oil companies to change their business practices. And last but not least was the Cold War, which it kind of links to the CIA, and it kind of links to military-industrial complex. He wanted to take a complete different approach with Russia, and here's what it it was. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, the NSA wanted Kennedy to bomb Cuba and harshly retaliate against the USSR. But the speech President Kennedy gave at American University on June 10, 1963 was a major departure from the Cold War rhetoric at the time. In the speech, JFK called for a re-examination of American attitudes towards the Soviet Union and a new approach to peace. He also proposed several specific steps to reduce tensions between the two superpowers, including a ban on nuclear testing and a joint space program. This infuriated a lot of people in the intelligence agencies and military.
I bet he'll still do it now. If, let's say, Trump or a Republican get into the office right now and they're saying, hey, we're going to stop this war in Ukraine, I bet it'll still infuriate the same kind of people too. It's so crazy. Like, when people used to tell us, hey, history don't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Hey, history rhyming right now. Because what's going on in Ukraine can possibly start a World War III. And I think this is how we can get uninformed voters, unconcerned Americans to be concerned about. Say, hey, you don't want to live through World War III, right? You don't want your sons to be drafted into a war to die at their hands for the benefit of some politician that don't care nothing about them. This is why populists tend to be anti-war, because in the day, the people in power don't suffer their lives in war when they start a war. No, the common individual like us do. We suffer. But hey, I digress. Like, if you look along party lines, I think Democrats started more wars than Republicans, and usually it seems like the Republicans end the wars. From my recollection, I could be wrong, but I'm taking a guess here, a stab in the dark. But let's continue.
So you're probably still asking a question, Pat. This is crazy. I understand. This is a great episode. Where are you going with this? Is this a political message on who I should vote for? I think I kind of read between the lines. Here's all I'm saying to you. Elon Musk, part of the anti-establishment. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, Apple, anti-establishment. Political people, Reagan, Kennedy, Trump, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders. Bruh. Bernie said, no, yo, I feel for the populist leftists, okay? Look. I mean, I agree with how the left want to do things, Democratic populists, if they're even progressives claim to be populist. So Bernie sold out, bruh. Crazy this, bruh. He don't even want to run again. I think he endorsed Hillary after he lost, and then the same thing with Biden. I don't remember how he went off with Biden, but yo, this man's like, I'm just part of the team now. Selling books. Crazy this, bro. Crazy this.
Was originally part of the anti-establishment until he caved. And he said, I can't do this. Why? Because it's hard. It's hard. It sucks. It's tough. It's lonely before everybody shows up. But you stay true to your values and principles. And
yeah, I think that's it for the video. I think I made my point with the video. The video's pretty good. I'll leave links to it in the description below, right? And I got like about 4 minutes left, right? So what I wanted to kind of wrap up and conclude this is Trump showed the way. Like, no one believed Trump was going to win until he did win. Then everyone, bandwagoners, everyone jumped on and said, oh my God, he actually won, right? And it's lonely. Like, to me, I think our country is worth fighting for. And I think if we really want change, man, we have to like try to advocate or try to educate or question people's assumptions. Because I already showed you second order thinking, right? A lot of people think like this, first order thinking, right? They think very fast and easy. If it happens when we look for something that only solves the immediate problems without considering the consequences, for example, you can think that I am hungry and I'm hungry, so let's eat a chocolate bar. Let's not take the chocolate bar, okay? Let's get the broccoli, okay? It may not taste good, but it's good for us. And I think that's what America, in general, every American voter needs to hear this. I don't care if you don't like Trump. Is he worse than Biden? Would you rather have a better economy and mean tweets or great tweets, bad economy? You pick. Right? And this is why I don't get into this morality. Oh, I'm better than thou, like these liberals do. Because this is how these liberals get so snarky and cocky. Right? But I digress. I hope you guys found this video insightful. And I think I'm going to respond to Martin Josephus' question about what books I read. I have some right here. So this is the right side of history. This is from Ben Shapiro, how reason and moral purpose made the West great. And this was how like started getting me thinking about some of the like Judeo-Christian values that essentially the America was founded on, which is true. America was founded on this, right? Ben talks about like community, how important community is. Like the conservative ideal is we're all part of a community, and we have we have a duty and obligation to that community to contribute to it and to make it better than how we found it, right? And as a conservative, it's our job to take the good, pass down the good ideas, and not pass down the bad ideas. And I think what happened in our American society is that too many bad ideas got passed down to us, and now we're in this mess here today where everyone's just thinking for themselves. This politician is bribing me for votes. He said he's going to give me reparations if I vote for him, so I'm going to vote for him, right? And this is the game that the Democrats started. I agree. I'll concede that. Yes, Democrats did start this game. They started race referencing. Hey, this is for Black America. This is for Hispanic America. This is for Chinese America. Asian Americans, right? They started that game. Right. And I think Republicans should not play that game. They should be like, hey, these policies are good for all Americans. Right. And I think trying to unify the country again will be a better strategy for America. And I think another book I read, let me see. These are all the books I have read so far. So another book I like to read is I'm a big Thomas Sowell fan. Oh, sorry if I'm too close to the mic. I'm a big Thomas Sowell fan. So my favorite book of all time from Thomas Sowell is Discriminations and Disparities, which talks a lot about like racial disparities, and just because there's differences of outcome based on race doesn't necessarily point to racism. The College Scam by Charlie Kirk is a very good book. I recommend that for anyone. Not the Communist Manifesto, but I got Robert Kiyosaki's Capitalist Manifesto, and that was an interesting book. Right? He talks about like how he talks about homeschooling a lot in his Capitalist Manifesto, and he's saying that he wrote that book to be a counter to Communist Manifesto. So I think that's a good book if you guys are interested in hearing that. I read a full book for college. Yeah, for college. Okay. Thomas Sowell, good. So the Capitalist Manifesto is a big one I'll recommend. There's an interesting book that I got that because I'm a father, so I'm planning to homeschool my son, and I have a book called The Politically Incorrect Book for economics, and this is where I get a lot of my economic like theories from. So they borrow from guys like Frederick Hayek, I think his name was, Milton Friedman, and also in that book, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Economics, they have book references for books in similar topics in that genre. So it's a very good collection of books, and I think one of my favorite ones, The Libertarian Mind. So I had this phase where I thought maybe I was a libertarian, so I consider myself like more of a libertarian conservative. But after reading The Libertarian Mind, I agree with some of the stances there, but I think I'm conservative because like socially, I believe the government does have a purpose into pushing values and a worldview on its people, right? And that's pretty much what makes me a conservative. But I think from an economic sense, yes, we should be more laissez. Like I agree with Milton Friedman on a lot of solutions because it's just recognizing the purpose of government, because conservatives are about small government, right? And the government, if you look at every case that it's involved in, it makes things worse and inefficient because obviously the government don't care about the cost or the quality of the service that it's trying to render, right? This is why UPS is like, people would prefer FedEx than USPS, like the United States Post Office, because obviously capitalism, they know how to use resources more efficiently than the government, because the government suffers no penalty for wasteful spending or just being bloated or just being inefficient in general. Like imagine Elon Musk was able to create a reusable rocket with less money than the US government. So that's all I'm trying to say. I'm a local classic Democrat and a federal conservative. I want small government. Yeah, so I'm a local classic Democrat. So I think there's a term for that, federalism. Like, you have a decentralized government. Like there's less things done at the federal level, and in how America was originally envisioned, it was supposed to be like states had a lot more power over their territory than the government does. Like government won't be able to top down decide everything for your country and your state. Like abortion. This is why a lot of people say, hey, no, abortion should be left up to the states. So I think that's some of your position, Daniel Martin, if I'm correct, right? Like states should be able to decide for themselves how they see certain issues, right? Like with abortion and anti-abortion. So if New York said, hey, we're an abortion state, and Florida's like, nah, we're an anti-abortion state, that's their right, because That's their local government. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So I make sure I was clarifying that. And then what's another book I read? Right. These books, like some of the books behind me here on the right, I haven't read them yet. But I think a great book is the Thomas Sowell Reader, and this is like it's a how I say it, a general book. Like it covers a lot of what Thomas Sowell is, all his great works throughout his history, his decades of knowledge, and it's like a summary pretty much of all of Thomas Sowell's work. So I think that's a good guide to read too. I'm a millennial conservative too, modern Josephines. I am for the Constitution too, and I'm a 10th Amendment is a part of it too. Yep, I agree. And I think what's another book? I think War of the West is pretty good from Douglas Murray. He's a pretty good author as well. And there's another book I was interested in, and especially if you want to try to counter some of the race issues. It's called When Race Trumps Merit. It's a newly released book. It's from, I forgot her name, McDaniel Heather. I don't feel like standing up and getting the books, but yeah, I'm telling you this from now. And then one of my favorite books, because I was researching about communism, it's called The Naked Communist, and it's a series. It's part of a 3-book series, The Naked Communist, The Naked Socialist. I have both books, Naked Communist and Naked Socialist, but I haven't read those books yet. And then there's a book called The Naked Capitalist. I think those are 3 good books, and that's where I found the 48 laws of communism and their attempts to subvert cultures. Because communist tactics is, hey, start a revolution in the country, kind of what's going on right here. Because the country right now is fragmented. Take advantage of that fragmentation, put those people into power, and then you turn the country into a socialist country. And Karl Marx said, hey, socialism is a path to communism, because progressives will never be satisfied for where the country, where the government's at, and they're always going to be pushing for more control, more ownership, and eventually you get communism. So, yep, that's it. Crazy, is it? Yeah. So I think that's everything from me. If anyone has any super chats or any questions for me, leave a super chat give me a super chat. But if not, I'll probably close it off soon. I'll wait a little bit more, 5 minutes. So I'm gonna read. I recommend some Mark Levin books, especially Liberty and Tyranny and Meritopia. Okay, I'll check them out. I got a lot of books to read. My wife is already like getting on me. She's like, damn, you got a lot of books. I say, yeah. Jordan Peterson's a good book too. I think I've been reading. And I have like some self-help stuff. And I'm a big, if you haven't noticed, I'm a big stoicism fan, right? I have a bunch of markers for Aurelius Seneca out here, So I have some books like that too. What else? I got some business books. I mean, look, I'm a nerd at heart, bro. I have a lot of books too. Okay, so we relate in that way, modern Josephus. But yeah, if no one else have anything else for me, man, I'll wrap it up. I have an announcement before I go off. I'm expecting my second son next week. His due date is like literally Wednesday, so I won't have a live stream for next week, but I'll be sure to record a lot of things for you guys. And on Friday, my next episode for Inconvenient Truth will be about the Republicans. You guys stay tuned. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Modern Josephis. Yeah, I'm just been waiting on it the whole time. So I have content scheduled out for you guys, so you won't still tune in. Still check out the channel. I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys found this video insightful. I'm gonna be working on the timestamps in the background. I'm gonna put links in some of the books I recommend. The book I recommend for this stream is The Puppeteer. I think it explains perfectly what's going on. The same author made a book called The Deep State too, but I haven't read this book, so I can't tell you what it's about, but I can tell you the people who controls America. So pretty much it points out the globalist agenda. So I'm gonna leave the link to this book as an Amazon affiliate link. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you 2 weeks from now. Maybe I'll have little Kenny on me when I'm doing this stream next time. But hey, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the support. I really do. Thanks for the super chat. I believe I forgot who gave me the super chat. Thanks for all the super chats. I hope you guys leave the like at the end of the video on your way out. And I'll catch you guys on the